house. Was it your own driveway?
No, it was 2 driveways down from my house.
Oh my god!
Can you see?
So it wasn't my neighbors, but it was
Hey
my
guys.
neighbor's neighbor. I just wasn't.
That would have been the
Really hoping to
I missed mine.
get
Do you have a phone charger?
That's
Give me 1 second.
terrible.
Yeah, I just asked her. She says give her 1 second.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
One
Okay.
second.
Some days I wish I was.
Okay, guys, those of you that were here yesterday, you got something that looks like this. It was the beginning of a packet of yesterday with basic economic concepts. And I said a bigger packet is coming. Well, it is here. Guess what? Okay, I've got one that was here yesterday. And it goes with this. So you can staple this on. Oh gosh. Oh, that's 2. I thought I grabbed just one.
Did you go
Okay. If you
Did you go
need to watch yesterday, come get it. I'll be passing out the one from today, and you got one. Somewhere, but do not hole punch this big packet because you will break my hole puncher, and I will. What?
Oh my god.
You
love me.
Hi Jessica, how are you? Okay.
I just grabbed one of each.
Thank you, Trinity.
Is this the same one?
I have that one.
I'm never doing anything for you again.
Oh,
You know I read. Okay. Those of you that are watching this online, if you want to come and get this from me in class, you may. It's Mr. Clifford's review pack that he made. It goes what videos to watch, and then there's practice questions and things like that.
No, you must have heard me wrong. Why do I have 6?
What is this?
Okay. Does everyone have this? Okay. So if you were not here yesterday, this is Mr. Clifford ACDC review packet that he made. Your name? And on it, for every unit, it tells you where you can go. It's I want to know more. It tells you which video to watch on ACDC, on his channel.
he outdid himself.
He really did.
What a loser.
He did.
Oh, that's right. You said it. Okay.
He did sell it, and then, well, no, someone bought it. One person bought it, but
Love Loki.
How much was it? Don't say that.
I think it was a decent amount. I think it was
What
40.
video?
What if Mr. Clifford is watching the video right now?
Oh my God! Thank you for watching. That's so amazing. Okay. So everyone has a board, a marker, an eraser, and a packet. Today we're talking about economic indicators.
He goes, push to the kids. To me, a hammer push over them. Right?
I don't want to use a dry erase board. Can I just use paper? I'm just going to use paper.
Saya?
We use paper.
We're in sandals. I've been doing toast before.
Okay. So let's get everyone settled. All right.
Can I just do this on my computer?
Do what?
Whatever we're doing.
Tutoring?
Yeah. Writing, because we're going to be writing on that, and I'm very anti-dry erase. So.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. So first things first, if you open every packet to the second page, it says this is economic indicators. So economic indicators is CPI, inflation, GDP, and I think that
The thick one.
is
both
where
This
we.
one. Wait, I didn't get that one.
Oh my gosh, isn't it the answers? Oh my God, I didn't know that.
The answers?
You don't even need me. Oh, why are you here? Okay. So we're just doing today, we're just going to be taking notes and talking about economic indicators. So have this. This is mainly a guide for me to make sure I cover everything. We'll be talking more than just what's on this page, because this page is good and all, but I do want to add some stuff. So you're like, where are we supposed to write this? I don't know. Don't you have notes for this class? Don't you have a little review book? Somewhere there. Or just off to the side. So main economic indicators. GDP, inflation, unemployment. Okay. Go away. Thank you. Okay. Yes, we're on the second page. So notice how it says CPI at the very top?
Yes.
Okay. What is the CPI?
Consumer price.
Consumer price index. What does it measure? Which one of these things?
Which one?
It measures inflation. Okay, so it says CPI, which is consumer price index. Measures inflation. It measures the rate of inflation. So consumer price index, what that is a basket of goods and services whose prices are watched by the government to measure inflation. They see like, oh, the price of an average pair of jeans this year was X amount of money, and now it's this amount of money. They can see the percent change. But it's like, I think there's like 80,000 things on the CPI list. So it doesn't measure everything that is bought and sold, but it does measure a heck of a lot. And David, I get that you're like propped up, and people behind you may not necessarily be able to see. And that person is Ramses, but he's watching soccer, so maybe he doesn't want to see. Who knows? Okay. It's true. I can see it. It's like honest fun. Okay. Okay. That being said, I might veer off of this. Yesterday we kind of stuck to this packet pretty like close, but I noticed that there's only one page for economic indicators. Hey, Ms. Martinez.
My queen. Yes.
Can you say please?
Oh no, that's our host. She can have them. Okay. Does anyone remember the CPI equation?
Is that no?
Is it nominal?
It is
It's nominal interest rate.
no.
No.
Just nominal is probably going to be GDP. Nominal GDP divided by
The
Unemployment.
CPI.
the CPI.
It's equal to real GDP?
No,
Times
almost.
100.
Times 100 equals real GDP.
I was close.
Very close. Okay. They will either give you the CPI in the problem, or they'll say something that's very similar to the CPI, and then they'll say the GDP deflator. Either of those are right. So you will put either the CPI or the GDP deflator in the denominator, because it doesn't matter like if they're which one they're using. They're both going to go in the denominator, GDP deflator. And it's going to be a number around 100, give or take. It may be as low as 80, it may be as high as 200, but it's going to be around 100. But here's the thing. If the CPI or the GDP deflator is equal to 100, that means there has been no inflation. That means nominal GDP is the real GDP because there hasn't been any inflation. So if that means no inflation. If that CPI number that they give you, let me erase this stuff. If CPI is greater than 100, 110, 200, 150, whatever, there's inflation in which number? The nominal number or the real number?
Nominal.
Nominal, because nominal has not been adjusted for inflation. Because look, this is the adjusting right here. Nominal has not been. When you adjust it, then you make it into real. So real has been adjusted for inflation because this is the equation to adjust it. And it pops out real. So real is the answer that has been adjusted. But if the number of CPI is greater than 100, that means this number has inflation in it. The nominal GDP is inflated. It's too big. So if you're to take out the inflation, is real going to be equal to, greater than, less than that number? If there's inflation in that number is inflated. It's, think of a balloon that has inflation in it. If you're to take the inflation out, that balloon's going to be smaller. The real balloon is a smaller size if you take the inflation out. So like if the CPI is greater than 100, that nominal number has inflation in it. So real GDP will be smaller than that. So real GDP, I'll say, is going to be less than nominal.
Could you just say the bigger the denominator, the smaller the number's gonna be?
Say that one more time. The bigger the,
Denominator, the smaller the number's gonna be.
yes, because you'll be dividing by a larger number. Yeah. I have a problem in my head, but I don't want to do it because it's the one that was on the mock AP test.
Do it.
Nope.
Do it.
Numbers around.
Help us out.
I don't remember the exact numbers. It was 200 and 2 something.
210.
Oh.
It was 100 and 110.
That was like question 3 or 4 on the very front page.
No, it was like 200 and.
I don't know what questions I was looking at.
200,
It's on the
200.
front page. Hold on. Let me get to whatever. I have CPI. CPI though is less than 100. If CPI is 95 or it's 80 or it's 75 or whatever, this nominal GDP
It's deflated.
has deflation in it. So to make it real, to make it more accurate, you got to take out the deflation. You got to take out the thing that makes it small, and therefore, if you take out the thing that deflates it, real is going to be what?
Bigger.
It's going to be bigger. The real number is going to be bigger because that has deflation in it. Okay, so CPI is less than 100. Nominal is deflated. Real will be bigger. I missed my mouth just now getting the straw.
Wait, someone got you Starbucks before tutorials?
Yep.
What
Wow.
a real one.
Wow. Was it your husband?
Nope.
Yes.
That was us.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. So notice how it says the GDP deflator off to the side. It's the same equation. I kind of bundled it up into one equation just now. So if we have like a, do we have anything? Yeah, we have some examples right here. It says the nominal GDP, I'm looking at on the right-hand side, second down, it says GDP deflator practice. It says the nominal GDP is 100, the real GDP is 80, calculate the GDP deflator. Okay, this time, it's giving you real and nominal, and you're having to solve for the denominator. You don't necessarily have to solve for real every time. Sometimes you're solving for nominal, sometimes you're solving for real, sometimes you're solving for CPI. As long as you put the correct numbers in the right spot and then solve for X, whatever X is, you should be fine.
Oh, I don't like that.
Sounds like a noise you hear before you die in the scary movie.
Yeah, the one from Psycho.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's just Mysterio.
I think it's a deal.
Is it?
No.
Hey, are you putting this in here? Okay.
Just shut up.
Look, Allie.
I don't need to slam it all in your face.
Yeah.
Water's not for you.
Huh? You get me one. Water's not for us?
It's not for you.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
for
The kids.
EOC.
Oh, God. Freaking nerds. Why don't they bring their own water? Remember?
Okay. I'm going to give you some time to do number 1 without a calculator.
On the CPI practice.
You are not allowed, yes, you are not allowed to use a calculator on Wednesday. That is a week from today. A week from today is your AP Eco exam.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, lordy. Devin, are you done? Okay. So I'm going to give you some time to set that up. Number 1. On the nominal GDP is 100, the real is 80, blah, blah, blah.
So now you want a board?
Yeah.
Okay. You should have set your formula up a little bit like this. You're solving for the GDP deflator. 100 over X times 100 equals 80. Am I doing this right?
I was just
I
on the
hope.
wrong-
Yes, you're my future.
100 is equal to
Where's my X?
You forgot to bring your X
There
out.
we go. There we go. I knew something was off. I was like, whoa, did I solve it? Is it just 80 equals 100? No, I did not. Okay, so how do you solve for X here?
Cross multiply.
Cross multiply. Okay, so 100 is what?
100 times 100.
And then
It just crosses out. So
Yeah.
X equals 80.
yeah, okay. Okay. Fine, whatever. So X equals 80. So what that means, and you can just prove my point here. That CPI or the GDP deflator, which is 80, is less than 100. I had just erased it, but it's less than 100. And if if the GDP deflator, I would take this.
I don't know where it's at.
Right here. If the GDP deflator is less than 100, what that means is that nominal has like deflation in it. So
We need to go bigger. We need to take out that deflation and then put in the
Making
real
sense.
GDP.
Ooh, what'd you say?
No, it's.
Take my heart
So
rate.
nominal has inflation.
Wait, so CPI is 80.
Side by X. And then divide by 80.
Yeah, it should be 10,000 divided by 80.
Yeah.
Is equal to X.
You have to put the marker down. The marker down.
Yeah,
Put the,
freaking cool.
X equals what now?
we don't know.
10,000
Oh, I
over
wrote
80.
this down.
It was 100 over 80 equals. No, that's not
No,
right.
it was 80 over
It was
100.
80 over.
Oh,
Can we just restart? Let's just restart. Reread the problem. Reread the problem.
Who's doing that?
100 over
Okay, so it should
Who's
be
out?
100 over X is equal to 80 over 100. Then
Yes.
you cross multiply. You get 10,000 is equal to 80X. And you have to divide by the 80.
Okay,
So it's
10,000 by the way.
so it's 100.
125.
It's like 125.
125. Yeah, it's not 100 because then it's like
So it's
nothing
greater
matters.
So real GDP is slower.
Yes, should be.
So what is CPI?
Doesn't matter. They give you the GDP deflator.
Oh.
Does anyone know the difference between CPI and GDP deflator?
No.
No.
Okay. One measures just a basket of goods. Which one is that?
CPI.
And then GDP deflator measures everything sold that year. So like CPI,
Gross domestic product.
CPI, the Consumer Price Index, that is calculated like every quarter of the year. GDP deflator can only be calculated at the end of every year. So it's a whole lot more accurate because it literally has everything bought and sold in the country in a given year, but it can only be calculated once a year. Versus GDP, like the CPI, can be calculated any time that they want. It's just not as accurate.
Why did they do that then?
What?
Why just do it once a year?
Catches.
Instead of like,
To get a more accurate number.
yeah, but like, why do we even do it in quarters if we can just get a more accurate number?
Because we want to know like how the economy is doing right now, as opposed to like, gee golly, I wish I knew, but we only can know like in about a year. Like,
Don't pick it up and call it my mouth, Brandon.
right? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you, I don't know, a couple of minutes to do one of the others. Pick any. Pick any. I just want you to have one more practice underneath your belt before we move on.
Okay, so I'm gonna do two because
You may do two or the rest.
Second question.
Yes.
So should it be like this if I put the answer down, or would it be like?
That'd be right.
Oh my God, you're not talking gay.
We're doing any of the
Did you ever get
You missed.
Oh.
I was gonna say with you today.
It's X over 200 times.
Snack and all that.
X.
I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh, sure.
You're missing part of the equation.
I was trying to.
I was like, yeah, I figured.
Okay, when you are done with one of the problems, I want you to turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, 6, 7, 8, 7 pages back. There is no like page number. But on the back of about 7 pages, you will see the answers to each of those problems. So just check the ones that you did to make sure that you are right. But only do that once you have an answer, not to just like, oh my God, because then it's sideways. I think it's 7 pages back.
Man, why is it so much easier? Are you the second time around? Actually, compared to class, do you have extra paper?
Yeah.
Class actually super. I need to get my laptop. Unless it's pretty there. I think I like Jose.
Okay.
Oh, I blame Jose too. Who said he was coming yesterday and today? And then was all like, psych. Like,
Psych.
Who's Jose?
Jose Castillo.
Yep. That's right, Jose. Talking about you. Watching this, I got you in the R. Prove me wrong. Leave a comment.
7 pages.
Smash that like button. Click the subscribe. Okay. So how do we do?
No.
7 pages back.
Okay, raise your hand if you got your questions right.
I don't even know where to find them.
Okay, like 7 pages back, where it like the packet starts to look a heck of a lot more crowded because all the answers are there. Keep going. You're almost there. You are almost there. One more, I think. One more. Now look there. There you go. See there on the right?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
It's a different CPI equation.
Well, it's on the left. It's on the right hand side of the page. Okay. So on the CPI practice, going back to those questions on the left hand side, it's talking about market baskets. Honestly, I do not see this all that important next Wednesday. Okay, but then there's like basal ganglia, which will haunt me for the rest of my days. But here's the thing. In the last 15 years, there's only been one FRQ where they talk about CPIs and consumer whatever. Okay, let's just look at the question. It says, assume the value of a market basket for a given year is 550, and the same basket for the base year is 500. Calculate CPI. Okay, so
On the left side.
CPI practice.
let's calculate this. I don't like this at all.
I don't like this.
Yeah, but he had something where it's like you look at like a table like that, and I don't like that. It's a whole lot easier. Okay, here is a problem that is better. Okay, let's say that an economy sells 2 things. They sell hot dogs
Hamburgers.
and hamburgers.
Oh, is this a chart we have? What about cheeseburgers?
No.
Oh, pop off.
Okay.
Only cheese dogs.
Yeah, I'm vegan.
In 2010, they sold
not a peanut.
10 hot dogs for $1 each. In 2010, they sold 5 hamburgers for $2 each.
I love those nuts.
Okay. And then, like, then they might ask about nominal GDP for 2010, which is basically how much money did they make? If they sold everything for the price they sold it at, how much money did they make? So they make $10 here and $10 here. So that year they made $20. Oh, that's a decimal. $20. And then they might say, well, in 2011, they sold 12 hot dogs for, $2 each. And then they sold 7 hamburgers for $3 each. What's the nominal GDP for 2011?
21.
So, 45. 5.
Yeah, 45.
Sing it. Okay. That's nominal GDP. And it's like, wow, that economy grew. It made $20 one year and $45 the next. Well, it grew, but also there's inflation from year to year. So then they say, okay, let's pick 2010 as our base year. And then they say, like, how much was real GDP in 2011? So if you use, let me raise this up so you can see. If you use 2010 as the base year, what is real GDP in 2011. And then people are like, I don't understand what that question is asking. They're saying, forget there was a price change. Take away inflation. It's saying if you're using 2010 as a base year, you take 2010 prices and apply that to 2011. So forget the inflation, take inflation out of it, take the price change out of it, and see how much they really would have made if you took away the price change. So then they still sold 12 in 2011, but now this time we're using 2010 prices. So they made $12 for just hot dogs.
And then 14.
And then they sold 7. We're still using 2011 because that's we're trying to figure out real GDP for 2011. 7 hamburgers, but we're keeping 2010's base year prices of $2. So then 14. So really,
they only made a 6.
They really only had a $6 growth, real growth change. The difference between $26 and $45 is inflation. Like they didn't really double and then some their economy. Really, their economy only grew by just a little bit. And so that is how this table type works. It's like, how do you figure out the nominal? Like just how much the money did they make? And it's like, well, how do you figure out the real? Well, let me convert it into the same dollar value. And then they'll tell you what year, like 2010. They can also use 2011, where you're using 2011 prices and 2010 quantities. So you can convert things back, or you can convert things in the future. It doesn't matter. As long as you're like, oh, this is real growth. That's not real growth. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, or concerns? Okay. All right, ignore that table that they give you. I don't know what they're talking about. Let's go to the little T chart underneath where it says who is helped and who is hurt by unanticipated inflation. All right, Andrew.
What about that equation with old CPI?
Okay. Before we move on, that's figuring out percent change of CPIs, and what the percent change of CPIs is the inflation rate. It's like, oh, CPI of last year was 100, and CPI of this year is 120. And then they're all like, what's the inflation rate? What's the inflation percent? Well, when in doubt, you figure out percent change. If they're asking about percent of anything, percent change of anything, it's going to be a percent change formula, which is new minus old over old times 100. And that gives you percent change for literally, you can put any information in there. It's going to tell you the percent change of anything. Like, my hair was this many inches long. Now it's this many inches long. What percentage of hair growth did I have this year? You can figure that out. And so inflation, it's new CPI, which this year is new, yes. 120, minus old CPI over old CPI. Oh, yeah, not just up there, but times
100.
In general.
So it's 1/5 times 100 versus 20%.
Yeah. Okay, this just happens to be where it's 20%. But do not think that I am just subtracting those. That just happened to work for this problem. Technically, it'll work with anything that the base year or the first year is 100.
Okay.
Then you can subtract.
So
but chances are it's not because it's AP. So it'll be like 110. And don't think that the percent change is 10% because it's not.
Oh, I know.
So don't just subtract the two. Figure out percent change. And those of you that had the mock test this morning, and you saw the very first page, the question at the bottom of the very first question. I don't know. It was like a table, and it was like that whatever. Go back and figure out percent change. Like that's what it's asking. People see that and they're like, I don't know what this question is about, and they skip it. Go back and do this formula, and that will give you the answer.
That makes sense now.
Yeah. I'm not telling you what the answer is. I'm telling you how to get it. I could. It's either A, B, C, D, or E.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't think you would.
I know. Okay, it's one of those.
From sugar.
Any more questions about CPI or figuring out CPI or base year or?
Let's just see who's helped or hurt by unanticipated
Let's see
inflation.
who was helped or hurt. Helped. Oh, that's supposed to help. Versus hurt. By unanticipated inflation. And here's the thing. With anticipated inflation, that is in the equation. Does anyone remember this equation? It's a real interest rate is nominal interest rate minus its expected or anticipated in this case, expected inflation. Which means banks have taken out what they expect inflation to be. Like if I'm a bank and I want to make like 5% interest on my loan that I'm giving out to you guys, and I expect inflation to like be 2%, I know that whatever I charge, 2% is going to be eaten away by inflation. And I want to make 5%. So I better be charging 7. Because whatever I charge, 2% will be taken away. And so what that basically is if I want real 5% interest, I better charge 7% interest because 2% inflation is going to be like eaten out of whatever I charge. That is what the banks charge. And that's their real return, real profit for a bank. But this T-chart is not about that. This T-chart is about, okay, they've had more inflation than what they expected. So they have not covered themselves. They've covered for 2%, but now there's like 5% inflation. It's like, I didn't expect that. So really it's if.
Like fixed mortgages and like fixed loans.
Well, there's the fixed paying,
yeah, so
and
like
there's a fixed paid. And one of those is going to be hurt, and one of those is going to be
so
helped.
if you go get a loan and it's at a fixed interest rate, that you're going to be helped. But if you get a
Why?
Because basically you don't have to pay extra amount of interest just because of inflation.
Because it's fixed. Whatever I get, it is fixed. And what I am like, imagine someone loaned you $100 in 1920,
Ooh, that's nice.
which is a lot of money back then. But there's been so much inflation since 1920 that paying back $100 is like not a big deal. Because the purchasing power of that money has fallen since all of this inflation. And so if you are having to pay back a fixed amount, you are helped. So if you pay a fixed amount on anything, on rent, on loans, on whatever, you are paying a fixed amount, you are helped. But if you have to pay, or no, just kidding, if you get paid a fixed amount, like, sorry, Grandma, you only get $100 a month in Social Security checks. But my money is not worth anything.
Like,
sorry, Grandma. Should have thought about that before you got old. Okay, so listen, lady. You know nothing. You're old.
Like Devin.
I mean,
You literally just sounded like Devin.
Yes.
the example you brought up during class was like teachers. Like, y'all's raises are, supposed to be fixed to inflation. But
Yes.
it's like, oh, thanks for that extra 1% raise.
So my real income has not changed in 10 years. My nominal income has gone up. I get paid like $10,000 more now than when I first started. But with inflation, I really make the same. In fact, there was actually one year that we did not get an inflation raise because attendance rates were so bad that we couldn't afford it.
What year?
I want to
Thanks,
say
Mr. Quinn.
3 or 4 years ago.
Love you, Mr. Quinn.
And we didn't get it. It's a district thing. It was a district thing. And so sorry, we can't afford raises this year. And so then the next year we got a raise, but not to bank up for the year before. So technically I get paid 2% less than I did 10 years ago. Yeehaw. Woo. Okay, so thank you for my free drink because I need it.
Yeah, she's throwing shade.
Okay. Key terms define deflation. Priscilla, what's deflation? I said deflation. I don't know if you heard me. Deflation with a D. Yes. Prices go down. Okay. Prices fall for a steady period of time or something like that. I don't know what the heck they mean by disinflation. Isn't that?
That's not inflation.
I've never seen that term. Okay, fine. Let's look at the answer in the back. What is disinflation? What does it say? Decrease in the rate of inflation. Okay, so there was inflation by 4% last year, and now there's inflation of 2%. I honestly, in my 10 years of teaching economics and my 4 years in college and my 1 year in high school, have never seen that term.
You say 1 year in high school? Oh wait. Okay,
Sorry, my bad. Well, I guess technically you're right. It was just a semester. Okay. I know so less now. Define the velocity of money. Okay. This term and the equation that goes right underneath it, people always either forget or they like, oh, I know it. And then it's like, just kidding. I totally don't know it once they see a question. What is the velocity of money?
How fast it goes between people's hands.
How many times?
The wire transfers.
No. How many times? What?
$1.
$1 is spent per year.
Yeah.
How many times $1 is spent per year is the velocity of money. And then right underneath it, we have the quantity theory of money where you will see that V, because the equation is MV, or M times V, equals PQ, or P times Q. So MV equals PQ. And there's a whole bunch of blanks where I'm assuming that we have to like define each of those things. So MV equals PQ. M
Money.
is what? Mass. It is not mass of money.
Money.
Okay, it is money
Supply.
supplied. Okay, money supply.
V stands for velocity.
Hold on.
Physics.
First semester kids, which M is money supply? No, that's money supply. Which M? There are 3 M's. There's M1, M2, and 3.
Yes.
No.
M1,
M2,
M1,
M3,
M1.
That's not M1. Money in circulation is M1. Money supply is M1. Not M2, not M3. Only M1. V, yes, is the velocity of money, which we just defined. P is the
Price.
price level.
Level.
Look at the
Okay, that was my question.
price level, which is another way to say inflation. And then Q
Quantity.
No.
Real GDP.
is real GDP.
Wow.
Okay, so if Q is real GDP and P is price level, what is this side of the equation? Nominal GDP. Because if you add the price level, you add inflation. If you take inflation and you put it onto real, you just made it nominal. And so that side of the equation together is nominal GDP. Not Q, but PQ is nominal GDP.
Oh.
Okay.
She's struggling.
Aren't we all though? Okay, assume the amount of money is $5. It is being used to buy 10 products and with a price of $2 each. What is the velocity of money?
It's being used to buy
Yes.
5
Okay,
times.
I hate that
5
question.
times.
You'll never be asked that question.
But it's
sure?
okay.
Just
But
got asked it.
but it's just, it said wait.
Okay, here's the thing. You can like throw AP science and be like, well, you didn't know.
Wait. That's 5.
I know this test. I know this test. I know this test.
Have you taken
I've
it?
taken about like 7 mock tests. I know the test.
Before the AP does it.
What? The test? I don't know. It might be a one-sided relationship where it's all like favorite, subscribe, but then it's all like, I don't even know who this person is. I follow you.
Actually, it's for that.
But here's the thing. This is how a problem might look. Because, whatever. If money, no, just kidding. If the Fed buys bonds,
Yeah. Discount rate goes down.
and velocity remains constant.
Maybe. What happens?
And price level falls.
Okay.
What happens to real GDP?
It goes down.
Okay. You have to basically hit each one of these equations, or each one of these variables in the equation. The Fed buys bonds. First semester kids, I know that we haven't reviewed monetary policy, but the Fed buys bonds, that's expansionary monetary policy, which increases money supply. So that money, that M, is going to go up. I just said velocity remains constant, so that does not change. These two sides of the equation are equal. And I just said price level falls. If these two sides have to stay equal, this goes up, this goes down. Quantity, to keep it balanced, has to go up. So real GDP, which is what Q is, has to go up to like counteract the prices falling and to stay equal to that side. That is how a test question would look. They might say percentages. Money supply increases by 5%. Price level falls by 1%. What percentage of GDP like will change by? 6.
Uh-oh.
GDP, it would like go up by 6, go down by 6, go up by 4, no change, or something like that. And it's just like, well, just plug in the numbers, make sure that they're equal, and you're going to get the right answer every time. Okay.
Wait, I have a question. So
Yes.
you said that GDP would go up by 6%,
Uh-huh.
but if P and Q is GDP combined,
No, P and Q is nominal GDP combined, and I asked what happened to real.
okay.
Q by itself is real.
Okay.
Good question, though. Okay, on the last box there, it says, what are the causes of inflation?
Oh, this is why I'm homophobic.
Courtney, you don't have to sit there right next to, like,
What? Nobody's gonna care.
I do. I do,
Well, I'm a king, so.
Oh.
but I do. Courtney, don't make me kick you out.
Okay, mistake. You teach them.
That's what I'm trying to do. Okay.
I'm not gonna say it.
Courtney, what's the cause of inflation?
I don't know what that means.
There are 3. You can tell me any of them. One has like 2 names. We graph 2 of them, and the other one's more of a theory, but kind of on the board somewhere.
Oh.
Like I would say number 9.
Kim Jong-un.
I don't know, I can't read it. There's a glare.
Sierra.
Supply down or
I know it's been a while, but do you remember the different, the like better names for supply down or demand up?
right and left?
Oh God, those are worse. That's somehow worse. Cost push or demand pull. Another way to say cost push. Stagflation, and then number 9, it says prices rise when the government prints too much money. And does anyone know what that theory is called?
That number.
China.
Quantity theory. Okay, so demand pull.
Oh my God, you're so stupid.
Ted Cruz? Murder?
She just said she was looking at number 9 on the calendar.
I was 2.
She's like, there's nothing off.
R.
It's not
R.
No, it's
R.
Real
Is it
something.
Real.
Real.
every Wednesday we get inflation.
Real interest
In
rates.
our feelings, Carrot Strong. Okay, cost push, also called stagflation.
Man, Chris Scott's gonna love that one when he's watching this.
I love.
He's gonna be like, wow.
Oh, dude.
Kelly out here representing it.
Mrs. No, economics. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Turn your own camera.
I know.
Get out of here, friend.
Why do we have to be?
Quantity theory. All right, demand pull, cost push, also called stagflation, and quantity theory. That is a heck of a lot of space for so few words. So let's graph the very first two.
Oh.
I used all the space.
There's all this room there at the bottom. I'm sure you could draw a tiny little graph. So you can't graph. You can't graph quantity theory. There's no graph that you can put that on. Right, Jessica?
Yes.
But you can graph demand pull and cost push. So Jessica, do you remember on aggregate supply and demand what's on the y-axis?
I'm sorry.
Giselle, you can help her too.
Wait, on what?
The y-axis for aggregate supply and demand.
GDP. Okay, so I
The y. I'm sorry, you must have heard me say x.
So the bottom is the Y and then the top is the price. So inflation.
Okay, all
No.
spring semester kids, aren't you so glad?
Bro, I am.
Like,
I
aren't
am.
you feeling of like, she doesn't know price level? But that's okay. I'm not mad. I'm just glad you're here. I'm just glad you're here. Okay, aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply. Let's have it in long run equilibrium, LRAS.
I don't even remember.
Yesterday.
Don't forget your boobs.
Okay, don't forget your boobs.
Oh, no.
Okay,
That's the one thing I remember.
Is it real GDP or nominal GDP?
it is real GDP on the x-axis, also labeled Y, also called total output
And
or
you-
total income, or that's really it. Not nominal. Nominal is not on any graph. Nominal interest rates, sure.
Yeah.
She didn't say nominal. She said mama.
Okay.
Now it's cute.
Zero's been on the keto
Ceteris
diet.
paribus.
Okay, Gustavo. When there's demand pull inflation, which line is shifting and in which direction?
Aggregates.
To the.
Right.
Are you sure?
No.
You should be, because the right answer.
Damn, Gustavo.
Aggregate demand to the right, and look at that, prices going up. You know what that's called when prices go up?
Inflation.
Inflation, and we're talking about the causes. So if he had said to the left, that would lower prices, and you know that you're wrong because prices are falling, and we're talking about inflation. And so we have
Demand pull.
cost push, or also called stagflation, on a new graph. We're going to start off in long run equilibrium.
Oh, I love this one.
Pretend I'm in long run equilibrium. Boop, 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 boop,
Okay.
boop. LRAS.
Ready.
Ruben? Which curve is shifting which direction for cost push inflation? Also called stagflation.
Oh, wait.
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay, PL, not PL.
That's an axis. It doesn't move.
No.
Wait. Come on. Come on. Come on, kids.
You're in here this semester. SRAS to the left.
No.
I don't know. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
That's stagflation. You know it's bueno.
And you or should have said anything.
Who? Okay. Shh. You too. I'm gonna put you in the back. All right. Quantity theory you can't graph. But can anyone, going back to demand pool, and I'm talking about fall semester kids. Spring semester, this should be like very, very easy for you right now. But fall semester kids, what are the shifters of aggregate demand?
Let's hear
Sigurdsson.
Sigurdsson,
right?
Yes. CIGXN.
Sig J's.
Okay. Changes in consumer spending, investment spending, government spending, and net exports. Okay. What about the shifters of aggregate supply? Fall semester kids. 9P, which is
Number sellers.
number of sellers,
Input prices.
input prices,
Technology.
technology, expectations, and productivity. Good
Slash
job, Al.
human capital.
Yes.
Okay.
To me. Big moment.
All right. I don't know where there's a space for like GDP. I don't see anything about GDP in here. Like just the place for GDP.
I think you forgot to
She didn't make it.
I didn't make this.
No. Like Mr. Crawford just forgot to talk about
Clifford. Someone knows to do their
I've never seen a big red dot before.
it. This is why I don't come to tutorials.
You've been here every day, and there's only been 2.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like in the past.
So I found a spot. I don't know. You find that spot. It's right before the answers begin. Okay.
We've been over this.
It says don't get excited. It says congratulations, you are done with economics. Dude, we barely.
So it says with macroeconomics.
Okay. So let's talk about GDP. And I didn't see unemployment anywhere there. So let's talk about GDP and unemployment. We're writing small. Okay. So GDP. Okay. So GDP, yes, the equation of GDP is Y, because that's another way to say it.
I seriously thought you just meant GDP equals GDP.
Is C plus I plus G plus XN. Where C is consumer spending, I is investment spending, G is government spending, and XN is net exports, which stands for exports minus imports. Okay. If we were to buy something, it's C. If businesses buy something,
it's I.
It's I. So
CI?
does anyone remember the two things that I buy that's actually considered I?
House.
Oh, house and education. Okay, business spending plus house and education.
Where consumers are more like the product market.
All right. And then G obviously is government spending, and then like exports minus imports. So our net exports, since we have a trade deficit, is actually a negative number because we import more things in dollar amounts than we export. Trend question?
Does private investment count?
Private investment is investment spending. So if you see that term anywhere, private investment spending is business spending. Yeah. So you're going to be adding that to the equation.
What's another term for a trade deficit?
A
Surplus?
trade deficit?
Yeah, is there another term?
A shrinkage?
No,
Or
surplus? No. A trade surplus means that you're exporting more than you're importing. A trade deficit is like what we have. We import more than we export. But if you were to say a synonym for those two things, a trade deficit would be like an outflow from the current account in the balance of payments. While a trade surplus, you could call an inflow into the current account of the balance payments.
Wait,
Oh, damn.
deficit outflow into the current account.
Deficit is an outflow from the current account. Daniela, what are you doing? No, we're not doing that right now. You can do that on the day after the AP test.
During the AP test.
No. Yes. The head scratcher that no one has washed ever, and people that you would never assume is clean, they've like.
But other people haven't.
Right. They're like, oh, I haven't washed my hair ever.
Especially those POC kids.
Scratch. Anna Meyer's question.
Have you already gone over the current account?
No, we will have a day over trade. Andrew, do me a huge favor, walk in the hallway and see on the calendar what day we cover trade.
Come back.
Walk in the hallway and never come back.
Tuesday?
No.
No, what day do we talk about
next
trade?
Tuesday.
Trade? Compare national advantage? Thursday, this Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow we'll talk about trade.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, it's already Wednesday.
It's already
Bro,
Wednesday,
it's
my
Wednesday, my dude.
You just read my mind. That's crazy.
It's so
That's
white.
N, that's an N. Okay, let's talk about GDP versus GNP.
It's not
Gross national product. Gross national product is all about who is making the goods. Shh, I feel like I'm yelling. GDP is where it is made. It is the location of where things are made. If it is made in the borders of the United States, it counts as GDP. But if it is made by an American, it doesn't matter who they are. If Ford has a factory in Mexico, Ford is an American car company. So that's going to be GNP. So N is all about your nationality, while D stands for domestic, as in like the borders of a country. Like domestic versus abroad idea. So GDP is anyone that makes anything in the borders of a country. So it is like made in like in the borders.
Thank you, that was needed.
Steel.
Holden,
Gary,
Michigan.
Indiana.
Made by.
Made by Americans.
So made in the USA, GDP, our GDP. If it's made in China, then it's China's GDP. If it is made by an American, then like if you have an Apple factory in like Taiwan is part of America's GNP because Apple is American, but it's part of Taiwanese GDP because it's in Taiwan. Does anyone know the overlap what that's called?
Sorry.
If it's made in America by an American. NNP for net national product. And that is in America by an American. So if a Ford company is here, then it's part of NNP. But then it's also part of GNP and GDP and NNP. So it fits all those three categories. Okay. Let's talk about what GDP includes and what GDP does not.
GDP.
So GDP excludes what are things that are happening in our country that are not part of GDP.
Standards of taxes.
I cannot tell like how people are living. I can say, oh, America's the richest country in the world, but oh, there's no poor people there. There are poor people there. And there like not everyone has access to like clean water. Flint, talking to you. And not everyone has access to the internet or a doctor or not like we even have a lower like literacy rate than Cuba. It's true.
It's okay.
It's true. So it includes standard of living or excludes like I'll say quality of life. I'm not gonna say standard of living because like GDP is standard of living, but I'll say quality of life.
What if they have depression?
The whole country is depression.
No.
In South Korea, I think it's one of the highest like GDPs, but everyone's super suicidal.
I don't
Like they have the
I'll
highest.
fact check you on
They
that.
have like
China
the
and
highest
Japan.
suicide rate, I think. But that's because like the education's like super strict there. So
And
like it's
Japan and
just
China.
yeah.
Okay.
You can try. I don't know if
Jesse
it's true, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay. So we're moving on to anything besides quality of life that doesn't include. What if I like get paid under the table?
Oh, black market.
Well, no, I'm not doing anything illegal. I mow lawns.
Oh, cash. Cash.
It's non-market.
A non-market activity.
So black market.
No.
It doesn't have to be illegal.
Babysitting is a non-market activity. You're not going to report that to the IRS. You're not like, baby, that's not illegal. But if you're doing something illegal, like I sell organs, then like, then that's black market.
Why would you need to buy it?
Because why organs?
For what purpose?
For transplants.
Like, don't you get those from the hospital?
Can you just
If
go
you can afford that,
and you're put on a wait
Well, how
list?
much is one from the black market?
yes.
If you come into the hospital with some random liver, are they gonna be like,
No,
question
okay.
where it's from?
They're not. You don't.
Yeah,
okay.
do you
Oh my
transplant
God.
it yourself?
lot of
Like,
giving yourself
Yeah.
a bunch of heart
So-
surgery.
Random like
Yes, that works.
Hey, there's an entire market for organs. It's not a black market, or it's not a black organ. You don't throw those away.
That sounds racist.
As in terms of like
All organs look
like,
the same.
okay.
We're all the same on the inside.
If you can't afford to get like a liver
Quality.
transplant or you don't have insurance and yet you're gonna die, you might like, hey, I'll take a risk by getting like surgery in the back of some vet.
You would probably.
Oh, yeah.
I watched a show where he was supposed to get a heart transplant, but then the guy just stole his kidney.
Oh yeah, I would like to get the number 5, please. Please
not
hold
lost.
diseases on it.
I think that's from Lost.
No.
And
Sounds like
Lost,
someone
he
blows up
stole
and,
his
like,
kidney
car and
from
like, hi, can I get the number 5? Hold the diseases,
I
please.
love
I just want to hold
Yeah.
diseases.
What the hell,
Brandon?
No,
What are you thinking about? I know, but whatever level of
Double counting? I love double
He
counting.
did that.
He died for me.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Is this still
Did you know that double counting is not good?
Ryan,
We
from The Office?
that was kind of an example, but it wasn't a great example. No, it wasn't a great example on my end. Double counting is when you count the inputs towards GDP. Like if you say, okay, remember how we did the like hot dogs and hamburgers? We just said like the price of the hamburger, the price of the hot dog. We didn't say how much like the cheese cost or the buns cost or like the I don't know. What? Yeah, the gas to cook it or whatever, or the labor that goes into it. That was already included in the price of the hamburger and the hot dog. So we only count the final product, not the inputs. So only count the final product, the final price, not the inputs. Because the inputs are already included in the price of the hot dog. The price of the bun is already included in the price of the hamburger. You don't need to count it twice. If you were, it would double the price of everything, which is why it's called double counting. So we don't double count. GDP, GMP. Okay, I think GDP is okay. Let's
Price.
price. That says price.
Do you know something that would be to upper measures?
Hey, Trent. Stop talking.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure that I say everything I want to say about GDP. And I think, hold on. Oh, there's another equation of GDP. Wow. It's the income approach. Hey, I can add up all of our spending and it'd be CEIGXN, or I can add up all our incomes together and it's going to be either our whipper, or second semester didn't really have a name for it. It's R plus W plus I plus P, where R stands for rent, wages, interest, yeah, the interest payments, and then P stands for profit.
Price level.
Nope. Okay. You know what's not counted towards GDP? If you go back to the like excluded part.
Standard of living.
Nope, we said that already. Transfer payments. Does anyone know what a transfer payment is? Welfare. Social Security. You see the problem say transfer payments, you immediately think welfare. That's the one that you go to.
Welfare.
Okay, we are done with GDP. We're moving on to the last economic indicator, which is unemployment. And we had to talk about the different types of unemployment and what does it mean to be unemployed, the equations for unemployment, and so forth and so on. So, unemployment.
Please stop talking.
I'll give you a.
Are we still writing at the bottom?
I would. I don't think there's unemployment anywhere in here.
They're so messed up.
Mr. Clifford, I'm really disappointed that you would like not have.
You say it. Why do you hoe us?
It says do not post online.
Like, and then Kelly Taylor goes and posts like.
I didn't post it. I'm giving it to you.
If I put it on
Not
Twitter,
for classroom use.
no, you won't.
I'm no.
You'll lose your scholarship.
This is Miss Taylor. This is Kelly Taylor. If your friend needs to pack it to you, they are your enemy. Don't be their friend.
We're not friends. Oh, if your teacher gave it to you and didn't pay, they are a jerk. I have slaved over a hot copy machine.
Thank you for not making us pay.
A student was so generous and he donated it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have concussion stuff.
Unemployment. There are 4 types.
We don't know that. Team free dead. I didn't get to this packet.
Okay.
Seasonal.
Seasonal.
Cyclical.
Frictional, I heard.
Cyclical.
I'm gonna put cyclical last. I want something here.
Structural.
Structural.
Oh, you said seasonal.
Okay, there are those 4 types. Seasonal is just not the right time of the year. You're a pumpkin patch farmer and it's March. You are a department store Santa and it's August.
Smart.
I don't know. Whatever. Yes, you're a lifeguard and it's December.
Or a
Yes.
Santa Claus.
She just
Oh,
said
you
that.
did? I'm sorry.
You said
Wow.
Wow.
I was right.
Wrong timing.
Okay, not right time. Okay. People are going to hello.
Hello.
Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor.
Oh, it's for
You
me.
can pronounce it, coach.
Whoa, he left. He asked me that.
He left.
Yeah, I just put it on my desk.
But also, do you have keys to get into his room?
I do not, but Miss Fleece does. She's probably still here. Do you know where
Listen,
who
man,
she is?
there's nothing valuable in there.
She's not
It's just
here.
Well, I
books.
left my backpack in there.
So, like we said,
Yeah.
yeah, I
I'll go
would
get
ask the janitor.
Wait, why did he leave?
How's that? I got you, buddy. I'll do it.
Are you signed up for AP Macroeconomics next year? No? Is that no?
You should have said yes. And she went. He's got to learn.
Oh, he did leave his backpack.
No, that's him.
Okay. So the test will test you against those two. Okay, and people always forget the difference. You either have the skills for the job you're looking for, or you don't. Okay, so if I quit my job to look for an eco teacher in another school district, I have the skills to do that. So which unemployment would I be?
Frictional.
Frictional, because you have the skills, you're just in between jobs. But if I quit my job to become like a counselor or an AP, I do not have the certification or the like education to do that. And so I have to either go back to school, become retrained, whatever. So I know skills. Or here's the thing. You have the skills, but the skills you have are not wanted, so therefore you have no skills. So like I used to fix VCRs, and that's my skill. But I no longer need it. My skills that I have, I don't have the skills that are needed. So then that would be structural. So if you used to be a VCR fixer, you are structurally unemployed.
Let's say I was just working at some place and I quit my job to look for like a better position.
Frictional.
Okay.
Frictional. A better position that you could do.
Mhm.
Yeah, frictional.
I'm assuming.
Okay, frictional.
Okay.
Yeah. If you apply for that job and they say no, then you just become structurally unemployed. Yeah. But you were unemployed to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's not like no biggie.
No big deal.
Okay, and then cyclical, this is because of some sort of either recession or some sort of like downward spiral on the business cycle. And we haven't talked about the business cycle yet. We're doing that now because technically it is GDP and economic indicators. So we have GDP over here, time on this axis, and it looks like this. And we have when GDP starts to go or is going up, what do you call that? When GDP is going up.
Expansion.
That's expansion.
Then it hits its peak.
Then it's peak at the top,
Then it hits a trough.
or no, not trough. Trough is at the bottom. It's gotta go. Trough is to the very bottom. Trough.
Contraction.
It's either a contraction or a recession. Okay, so during that contraction or recession, you are going to have cyclical unemployment because the entire word cyclical means that it is like based on the cycle, the business cycle. So like it is cyclical because it comes and goes based on the business cycle. How long does GDP have to fall before it's considered a recession?
6 months.
What about a
consecutively.
depression?
A year.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years for a depression, 6 months for a recession. So like depressions are 4 times as bad.
Depression.
These three, frictional, structural, and seasonal, if you were to add those up at any time of the year, what percentage of unemployment would that be?
4 to 6%.
4 to 6%. And what do you call that?
Natural rate of unemployment.
The natural rate of unemployment. That's awesome. Does the natural rate of unemployment ever change? No. Unemployment changes.
Yes.
But if you ever have a question that says, in the long run, what happens to the natural rate of unemployment? That 100% will always be the same answer as it does not change. And you might see this in like a Phillips curve question. Because remember the Phillips curve, we have inflation, we have unemployment, and like long run Phillips curve looks like that. We have short run Phillips curve that looks like that. First semester kids, did I talk about herpes and AIDS?
Yeah.
Okay, second semester kids, I didn't talk about that.
Why didn't we do
That's
that?
no, it's
It's
herpes
too
and
offending.
cancer. I offended one person. But then it was a cancer herpes.
What is it? I want to
Your herpes
know.
have cancer. Your
Yeah, but I
cancer
wasn't
has herpes. Yes. I did not do that second semester just because I did several analogies first semester, and then second semester I looked around the room. I realized what my students are, and then I was like, I don't think they can handle it. And then because I had another one with a punch bowl with crowding out, first semester knows what the punch bowl is.
Yeah.
Second semester does not know what that is.
Tell us. I want to know.
And you know what crowding out is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why would I add another story when you already know what the story is? It's not snitch. It's just like
I just want to know what a
Yeah.
punch
I
bowl
want to be
is.
prepared.
it's multiple
This is
funds. You know what multiple
unequal.
funds is? And
Yes.
everyone puts their money in there.
Yeah.
I just said that that's the punch bowl, and the government comes in and takes the.
Oh, are you talking about like? Oh.
I'm talking about multiple funds and
Oh,
crowding
yeah.
out.
Wait, why would you not want to
I
say
get
that? I
it.
don't
Put your
get it.
keys in there.
Okay, I get that.
I don't get
You're going to like a swingers party? Is that what's happening here?
That's what it sounds like. That's what sounds like the punch bowl.
No.
Can you explain it?
And this is why
No?
I was right. I was right. I'm always right.
Never happened.
Experiments on her own students.
Okay. So if it says what happens to long run, this remember, that is a long run.
Lurk.
Just kidding.
Long
That
run
is
Phillips curve.
the natural rate of unemployment. Long run Phillips curve, it does not change. Allie, what shifts to LRPC?
That would be if there is an
Nothing. Nothing shifts it. I said that. Nothing shifts it. You're too busy talking that realize that nothing. The answer is
She was
nothing.
onto something. I would not have known either way.
Okay. Well, it's nothing.
If there's a
It's the only curve that does not shift. The only one. Literally everything else shifts. Except for that one. And if you're about to say that long run aggregate supply doesn't shift,
It
you
does.
can leave.
Because when you so when you
No.
no, because
Oh
long run accurate supply is the Phillips, it's the PPF curve. And when you straighten out the PPF curve, you get the Larousse.
Yes, if you iron it out, it's the same.
See, that's what I was trying to say. And you're like, no.
What does it say under contraction?
Recession, because they're anonymous.
Cool.
Yes. Okay.
Contractions when you get tested.
Labor force equals.
Who said labor force?
Unemployed
Plus Yes. How old do you have to be to consider be unemployed?
16.
Do you have to be looking for a job?
Yes.
Yeah, you do. What if you're in the military? Are you unemployed?
No.
Stay-at-home mom, you unemployed?
Yes.
No. Are they looking for a job? They're
No.
stay-at-home mom. What about retired?
No.
Babies?
Yes.
No.
Why would we babies be unemployed? If you're over the age of
They gotta
16,
pull
you're
their
right.
weight.
There are plenty of people that are over the age of 16 that are still
They
babies.
could always donate the organs.
That's what we work on.
That's my job.
David. Okay.
At the what?
What?
Honestly,
Okay.
Miss Taylor.
I know. What about the unemployment rate? You want to know what that percent is?
4 to 6%.
No. That's the natural rate of unemployment.
Unemployed over employed times 100.
That is perfect. Wait, unemployed over what?
Stop reading from your notes.
No, I actually wasn't. Look, it's on.
No, she wasn't reading from her
Labor
notes because
force.
she would have said it right. What?
Labor force.
Labor force. Times 100.
Can you just acknowledge that she's doing such a great job?
Yeah, she's doing pretty
For
good.
someone that was here last semester, and I haven't seen since.
with you.
Yeah. That was your goal today.
That's her goal today.
Oh, I should make that goal too. Okay, that is the.
Are we done?
I don't know. We have questions to do. I found a mock test that you guys haven't seen. Well, second semester kids might have seen a couple questions because I literally took a page out of this thing to give it as a quiz. But I have 4 questions and
That looks like our test.
it's not your test. I mean, it's a test. You've actually seen second semester kids. You've seen 1
Yeah.
through 5
Oh yeah. that was-
because it was a quiz the other day.
Yeah.
But I want you to look at question number 2. Oh God, can I
Yes, my car's got the.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know if I can
Type for me.
I don't know
Type.
if I can.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Show
I
us
can
how you
make it to the
type.
gas station.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully everyone has a whiteboard in front of them. If so, they can write their A, B, C, D, E answers in notes. I sound like your sisters.
I have to use the restroom.
Hello, ladies.
Are we done?
No, we're doing questions, right?
Yes.
Yes, darn it.
Jeez.
Is that another pages?
I don't have candy. I've got a cabinet. That's not a drawer. Drawer pulls out. Like, it swings out. Okay. Number 2. Which of the following groups would most likely gain from unanticipated inflation? Landlords who own apartments in cities with rent controls, individuals who have fixed retirement incomes, individuals who earn high incomes, individuals who have borrowed money at a fixed interest rate, banks that have loaned all excess reserves at a fixed interest rate. So remember, people that are hurt and people that are helped by unanticipated inflation. We're looking for gaining. We're looking for someone that has helped when there's unanticipated inflation. I see a couple answers. I'm still looking for a little bit more.
No, it was the quiz we took.
We had a quiz last time. Like I literally. Okay. Majority of people have put
D.
the correct answer, and the correct answer is D, because they are having to pay back something at a much lower purchasing power.
Okay. Okay.
Freaking A.
Well, I mean, okay. I am now scrolling to question number 28.
Okay.
28.
Okay.
I went through this entire test earlier to see which questions would apply.
To us.
Yes, to this review session.
Go over to the right.
You do number 27 actually?
Do the Cupid shuffle.
That one didn't.
You have to go
I
back.
read it for
Reverse,
like
reverse.
Okay.
2
There you go.
seconds.
28, which was also in Michelle's class. Assume that the nominal interest rate is 10%. If the expected rate of inflation is 5%, the real interest rate is. This is the Fisher equation.
Stop looking at my answers.
He's probably wrong anyway.
I'm so nice to each other. Okay, I see simple answers.
I don't even remember the.
Okay, the equation is this. It is real.
Are you holding the eraser?
Oh,
Is this like an N?
okay, gotcha. I got the nominal process.
So I didn't know.
Whatever. The equation is real equals nominal minus inflation. If the expected rate of inflation is 5%, and nominal is 10, it's 10 minus 5 is going to be equal to real. And so it is 5. The answer is 5, which is C. The answer is 5, which is C.
Here, I wrote down the word for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh no.
AC's gone.
I know.
Okay.
I do anything for her.
You can see this. This is the Fisher equation. Real interest rate is equal to nominal interest rate minus expected inflation.
Oh, what is
So
an
if
I?
10 is the nominal and they expect inflation to be 5, the real is 5, and 5 is C. Up here.
This is the one I always forget.
Oh my God, you wish you would.
It's such a simple equation. Okay, here's how you can remember it. Nominal has inflation in it. Okay? So nominal minus inflation equals real. Does that help in any way? Nominal minus inflation equals real, or real plus inflation is nominal.
Okay.
That is the Fisher equation. I didn't make that up a few years ago. Okay, let's look at number 29.
29.
Did you say to me?
Cheesy's got like.
Jeez.
Yeah, she.
Which? I lower that a little bit. Okay, which of the following will lead to an increase in the United States gross domestic product? And unfortunately, this is like second semester kids. They've seen 3 of these questions already. More individuals prepare their own personal income tax forms. Some citizens begin working abroad as computer programmers. The government prohibits the sale of alcoholic beverages. Foreign companies build new assembly plants in the United States. 1 million United States households sell their used cars to their children, which will lead to an increase in GDP. And everyone got this right, and it is D. Why isn't E? What is E called?
You can't sell used cars. Once it's been sold once,
It is
it can't be
used.
sold again.
The only person
And be counted.
benefiting from is you. 'cause
Right.
you.
Right. It's used, and it's a like
It's just
it's like a
circulating money,
non-market
actual-
activity, but it is used.
So what is that called? You said what is it called?
You could also say it's a non-market activity, but y'all like focus on the use thing, which is still also right. So there's like 2 things. If yeah, okay. That was number 29. Let's look at number 36, 37. Just kidding. 30.
You know what?
Too far. Oh gosh. Can I scroll? What's this? 36. So close. 30.
What was that?
Okay, here we go. 37. Which type of unemployment would increase if workers lost their jobs because of a recession? Cyclical, frictional, seasonal, search, and structural.
Yeah,
It
Google
is
went down.
A.
Google was in a recession.
It
so
is
it's
questions like this that make the time test, like the time part of test, which is all of it, but like the idea of the fact that it's timed, not that big of a deal, because questions like this, you're like in and out of this question in 5 seconds. And then that time will roll over to the next question that you need to graph on. Let's look at 41, which is right here. Okay, 41. In 1 year, spending on consumption, investment, and government purchases was equal to 103% of the country's gross domestic product. This would be possible only if A, the money supply increased, B, net exports were positive, C, net exports were negative, D, the government ran a budget surplus, or E, the government has a balanced budget.
Okay. Show Valley.
Hey, don't speak to my woman like that.
Yeah, you can tell.
And that was good.
I have no ice in it or something because it.
Oh no, it melted. I drank it.
Am I wrong? Don't look at it. Stop.
Okay. How can C? God.
Yeah, you see it. Get that.
Here,
There you go. I will figure this out. I am a resourceful,
Woman.
young
I thought she was about to break that.
She's
Yeah.
21.
No, she's
Okay.
Did you just assume her gender?
It says miss on the door.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't know
what was
you were Apache helicopter.
what? Maybe the
I identify as a lava shark.
So you live in Hawaii. Okay. What? Too soon? Actually. it
Oh
really
my
is.
God. That was, they're still evacuating.
I'm so sorry. If anyone from Hawaii is watching this video,
Hawaii,
don't
the
forget to
volcano,
subscribe,
erupting.
like, and
Smash that like button.
smash that like button. Okay.
Smash it.
Buy my merch.
Like 100 tweets will get you
Nothing.
I'll give you nothing. C plus I plus G plus
Nothing,
XN.
because I'm a teacher.
C, I, G. These 3 is 103% of this number. How can that possibly happen unless this number is negative? Then it's like -3. It is C.
Okay.
It is C.
I learned
Next,
a lesson.
net exports are negative.
I feel like my IQ is raising by the minute.
Aw.
Miss Taylor.
Mine is
Hey,
how
I
many
said that
Weeklies would
earlier.
it take for you to go to prom?
Oh, I didn't say that.
Mine's,
Mine's recession
mine's
right
under
now.
like mine's actually like
46.
Mine's under like
46
Math,
mentally
it's
retarded.
No, 46.
It's giving birth to another IQ.
I mean, our prom already happened, but we could go to Magnolia.
Magnolia, aren't they all redneck?
Yeah, but that's horrible.
Okay. Labor market data for country X in millions of persons. 180 in the population, 94 employed, 6 unemployed, 80 not in the labor force. Based on the information in the table above, what is the unemployment rate for country X?
Okay.
3.3, 4.0, 6.0, 6.38, 7.5.
How would
You don't even have to do that. It was
Where's Jordan?
Hold on.
Jordan's somewhere.
She's not taking
her
the
home.
AP test. Yeah, but where is she in the school?
Yeah, I'm taking her home.
Why didn't she come in here then?
She's not taking it?
We don't know.
She's not taking
No, she's not.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I can't. I just have home anyway. Oh, I gotta get some stuff.
Okay.
I have to take a dump.
The answer is C. Because it is 6, which is the unemployed. How did I get that 100 number?
Because
Okay, it is the labor force, which is 94, which is employed plus unemployed, which is 6, which is 100. So it's 6 over 100 times 100. Those hundreds cancel out. It's 6%. And
I got
that's
that.
C. Question number 56 is next.
Konnichiwa.
Where is 56?
Konnichiwa, Allie.
Oh my god, are you leaving?
Allie-chan.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask this. Okay. Which of the following household purchases will be counted as a part of gross private investment in a country's GDP? Government bonds, sales of company stock, corporate bonds, a new car for personal use, a newly constructed home.
That's interesting.
Oh. Good question.
Excuse me, I don't remember learning about GPI.
Product index. Is it
Yes, ASMR. Kelly Taylor ASMR. This is her new YouTube channel. Welcome to MAcroecon.
I remember the video.
It is E.
Shoot.
Okay.
Right.
I'm done.
Okay. Bonds and stocks are not included. So A, B, and C are not included. D, a new car, that would be consumption. And E, yes, it's something that we buy, but I just said homes and education are part of I and not C. Okay. Are there any questions over economic indicators before we head out for the day? It's 4:08. We can be done. I have more questions.
Yes, because my brothers aren't going to be done till 5.
Holy crap. Well, I mean, it's not like, what does it say? What are you doing?
Just leave and come back.
I guess we'll
I
math.
live like 20 minutes away, so I go home for like 10 minutes Just and come back.
No, you
somewhere
go
else.
to Target, you buy something fun, and then
I
you come
already
back.
bought the stuff for my English project. I did that earlier.
Buy it again.
Return it.
And then buy it.
I'm sorry, I started
I
something.
think you're not on the camera. I don't know
How
what
many
that says.
retweets?
Receive $100
You
from
spelled it
KK182. No, I didn't spell it right.
I, right?
No.
I before E, except
No.
after C.
Receive.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong.
I before E,
Sorry,
except
correct
after
B
C.
on
It
one
literally is in the
Which
rules.
way is it?
You're looking
Except
at
after
spelling
C.
bee.
God,
Cheers.
I
Okay.
like Panda Express.
If you would like
It doesn't look
more questions, more questions.
Jesus.
Just sometimes.
Okay, since you're asking for questions over what topic? We have inflation, unemployment, GDP. No. Poor. Okay, what? GDP.
Jordan Snapchatting me. I have to wait until my mom.
Jordan.
Okay,
I can't unlock my phone.
GDP is, so, like, leave or sit or
Oh,
something.
sorry.
GDP is A, the market value of all final goods produced in a specified period of time. B, the value of all intermediate and final goods and services produced in a specified period of time. C, the market value of all final goods and services produced in a country inside or outside its boundaries in a specified period of time. D, the market value of all final goods and services produced in a country inside its boundaries in a specific period of time. And or E, the market value of all final goods and services produced by companies headquartered in a country regardless of where the production occurs in a specified period of time. So the two answers that I see are D, so I'm going to click on that. And it is the correct answer. Why is A not correct?
That doesn't include service.
Because it could be outside the country.
Yeah, it doesn't include services. It says goods and services, but then it also says this is a better answer. It doesn't say services and it doesn't say where.
Ouch! Ugh!
She bought that with her own
I didn't do anything to it. She threw it at me.
She erased my drawing also.
God.
Trinity's the problem here.
I agree.
It's like because I'm gay.
Trend. Okay. Oh, geez. Okay. Which of the following would be included as a final dollar value in the U.S. for 2006? Okay. There's a whole look at the answer choices. Okay. So, a $50 tire produced in Ohio in 2006 and sold to Ford Motor Company in Michigan in 2006. Can we just say yay or nay so we can cross off and eliminate?
Yay.
We haven't started yet.
Ow.
Oh, on just one.
Oh.
Should be nay,
Dang it.
because that's an input. If it's sold to you, that like tire is sold to you. That's you are buying a tire at like the tire store. Then that is like a final bid. But if it's sold to Ford Motor Company, it's going into a car, and so that's going to be an input. So that's, if you counted it, it'd be double counting. Nay. A $50 tire produced by Firestone in Mexico. Nay. A $50 tire produced in Ohio in 2006 and sold in 2006 to a tire retailer in Mexico that sells it to consumers.
No.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah.
What?
It's an export.
Oh.
It has to be because it's the reason all lands.
Okay, that's just good test taking strategy, Shannon. Good job. Okay. A $50 tire produced in Ohio in 2006 and sold in 2006 to a tire retailer that sells it to customers.
Yeah, because it sounds like green.
Sounds like consumption to me. And last one, a tire produced in Ohio in 2006 and sold to a U.S. tire retailer in 2007.
No, different here.
Okay, so you think it's 3 and 4 only,
Yes.
which is B,
Mm-hmm.
and that is apparently,
Is it E?
is it E?
Wait, why is it
Oh,
5?
But it's produced. Is it made in the borders of a country in that year? It's not going to be counted in 2007 because it's used in 2007. When is it going to be counted? It has to be counted in 2006 because in 2007 it's old. So it's like, oh, we're not going to count it because they sell it next year. You're right. They won't count it next year.
Used.
It would be used, not used. It would be old in 2007.
Oh,
I was asking what's the counted in 2006. So it should be 3, 4, and 5, which means if I click, wait, that's not right. 3, 4. If I click E, it should say correct. But oh god, oh my god. Do you know why it's E?
No.
Not really.
Okay, we got 3 and 4. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but 5. Remember what GDP is? It's produced in a country in a given period of time. It doesn't say produced and sold.
Oh.
It's produced in a given period of time.
Yeah,
So it's produced in Ohio in 2006. Yes, it's sold to a U.S. in 2007, but it was made in 2006,
Oh, we only count 2006.
and we only care about 2006.
Oh my god. Oh!
Allie?
Can you throw that in the garbage? Can
You were telling
me
me
start?
into the trash?
Yeah. But it didn't have any liquid in it, so it wasn't heavy enough.
The 4 parts of the business cycle graph are, Allie, sit down, be quiet. Expansion, boom, negative, and trough. Contraction, expansion, negative, and trough. Contraction, expansion, negative, boom. Boom. Boom, negative, trough, contraction. Expansion, boom, contraction, trough.
You say trough one more
You
time.
say boom one more time.
Boom.
ASMR boom.
Okay.
That's too loud. It doesn't work if it's loud.
Smack her in the face.
Oh my gosh, I had 2 people watching.
Wait.
And one person just gave me a like.
Slaughter.
Who is that? Say something. Person that just gave me a like. There's a chat. I can talk back to you.
Wow.
Don't talk
You're
back.
understanding YouTube.
That's a really creepy guy in like Czechoslovakia.
That's Vidania.
I did get a new subscriber yesterday that's like not a student.
Wow.
I was like, oh yeah.
They really want to pass that AP test.
Oh hey, great ASMR. It wasn't me. LOL. Georgia's watching. Hey, Georgia, shout out to Georgia. And I don't know who Potato is. Is that someone? Potato?
I don't know.
Mr. Potato.
Do you look at our YouTube like things? Like, do you
Do I,
you
like-
stalk us on Twitter? But would you stalk us on YouTube?
No, I don't care that much. I don't stalk people. Do you follow me? Do I follow you back? Do I like things that you say? Yeah. But I'm not like,
Always
oh,
like
let's see what, like, let's go through Cole's pictures.
Look at all these Chili's pictures.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna punch my
It was E. I don't know if anyone cared, but boom, in this case, boom must mean that it's a, like, a P, and that's the only one that's out of place. Okay. I don't know if they're going to use this on the test or not, but I don't want to like answer this question. But if you see the term current and constant, current is another way to say nominal, and constant is another way to say real. So if you say converted into constant dollar value or constant prices or something like that, constant is real and current is nominal. Puke. Okay, if the nominal GDP in year 3 is $2,400, and the GDP inflator, also called deflator, for the year 3 is 120, then real GDP is. So how do you set up this equation?
24,000 over 120 times
Wow,
24,000.
Okay, 24. Oh, jeez. Okay. 2,400.
24,000.
What?
over 120.
Hey, Dylan Morgan, thanks for joining us.
Are you Dylan Morgan?
Hi, Dylan, I missed you today.
That was Trent, if you can't hear. If
He
you're still
knows
watching.
it's me.
There are 2 people watching, so we must have lost either Potato or
Excuse me.
Georgia.
If it's
But I
George
got
was
3
like, I'm
likes. That's awesome. So 2,400. What do you do with that?
Over 120.
Over 120.
100.
I can't do that math.
Okay. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Let's simplify.
Take a zero.
It's
Take a zero.
just 2.
Now it's 240 divided by 12. Do you know
20.
any numbers that are like 12 and that's like 24?
Yeah, I know 12 goes into 24 twice.
Yeah.
Okay, what about 12 into 240?
I don't know that.
Add a zero.
Add a 0. There's a 0 here.
So it goes in 120 times.
You just said it goes in 12 goes into 24 twice. Twice, that's a 2.
Oh, 20.
Now add a 0 to that.
20.
Okay, now multiply that by 100.
Just add the zeros together.
2,000.
2,000. Is that an answer choice?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah, it is. It's B. And that's the right answer.
When in doubt, add a zero.
When in doubt, look it up.
I'm in theater right now. The answer is D. Dylan got that first. Man, okay. All right.
Theater.
Okay, this is like a question that we had on today's mock test if you're in class today.
Stuck in my
If the real
nail.
GDP is 1,000
Okay.
and investment is 150, government spending is 250, net exports equals negative 100. How can how can you have a negative net exports?
We have more.
If you import more than
What do you call that?
Deficit.
Trade deficit.
Yeah.
Deficits are recorded on the balance of payments, which account?
The current.
Financial.
Current account.
Mm.
Okay, so consumption must be. So it says GDP is 1,000. The GDP equation is C plus I plus G plus XN. And that's equal to 1,000. Well, it says we're solving for C. So C plus investment spending is what?
150.
Government spending is what?
250. 250.
And then we're subtracting 100. All that equals 1,000. GDP has to be equal to. Dylan says D again. Let's see if D is right. D is right. Good job,
Oh
Dylan.
my god,
Hey,
Dylan.
He's just on fire today.
You want to do?
What?
So he's finna drop a 6.
What is it?
I don't know if you can.
I don't understand.
Anything's
Extra-
possible if you
extra
put your
credit
mind to
on
it.
the AP test.
I said finna and I just stopped.
Jordan thought.
Oh, you did say that.
Like
I know she said she.
Hey, does anyone know the largest
Oh.
component of GDP?
Oh, it's so.
Government consumption.
Did you know that 70% of our GDP is made up by consumption?
Yes.
70%. That means the other 30% is all of business spending and government spending and our net exports added together. Of course, net exports is like a negative number, so it's like whatever. But think about how much the government spends and how much businesses in the United States spend.
It's huge.
And that's not even
Huge.
half. Yes.
It's huge.
Very huge.
Just say it.
Just
Just
like
say it
right
once
hands.
for me. It's huge. It's huge.
It's
Huge.
huge.
Gotta make the hands small.
Huge.
Come on,
It's
you
so
gotta make
huge.
it
Well, there's
this.
ASMR.
You gotta
Yes.
make it
It's a 45 degree angle.
Hi, and hello, American people.
It's huge.
45 degree angle.
Okay.
We can go with the hands.
Oh my God, that's the end. Can we be done now?
Yes.
Okay.
I gotta go.
It is 4:21.
Who's mad? No, tickets out of 4:30.
And we are done. Thanks to everyone that
Like and
came.
subscribe.
Yes, don't forget to
Smash that
turn
like
that
button.
notifications
Smash
on.
that like button.
We upload videos every day. Hate for you to miss one. See you later, guys. Bye.